Road now. We're picking up Old Kings Road, and we're headed for the Princess Place Preserve. Now, keep in mind that on this tour, I can't take you down to the Princess Place. It takes about 25 minutes to get down and make the loop down there, and we just don't have the time. But Princess Place was the old Pellissier plantation, and Mr. Pellissier was a Menorcan, and he had cattle, he had an orange grove, he did some farming on the Spanish land grant that later became the Princess Place. The Princess Place was bought by a sportsman, in other words, as a hunting and fishing camp. And he had tons of money, and he hired some of the contractors that were building Henry Flagler's hotels in St. Augustine. And he built this gorgeous coquina-based hunting lodge here at the Princess Place on the old Pellissier plantation. And his name was Henry Cutting. He was wealthy, and they had the best of everything, and they'd have people coming from all over the country to hunt and fish. Now, why was this area so popular for hunting and fishing? Think about this. You've checked in to one of Henry Flagler's fancy hotels in St. Augustine. You're in it. What are you going to do? You're going to go look at the fortress. You're going to walk around, have a couple nice dinners, and if you're a man, you're bored out of your gourd. You don't know what to do. Your wife loves it, but the men don't. So where was paradise? Paradise was south, was down here at what later became Flagler County. This was hunting and fishing paradise. We had wild Spanish pigs that you could shoot. We had fish galore. We had alligators that you could pot. We had all sorts of hunting adventures. We had all sorts of fishing adventures, and that's what the men did. And that's why Mr. Cutting built his great place down here, which is basically a hunting and fishing preserve, and it was kind of a man place. I mean, they had a gun room, they did a lot of hunting and fishing, and it was very popular. They also had a steam launch, a 50-foot steam launch, that they could bring visitors down here from St. Augustine, and they did. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Cutting died, and his wife, she burned through 3 husbands. She burned through Mr. Cutting. She had a second husband who was one of the founders of the New York Stock Exchange. She had a third husband that was one of the Russian royal family, because when they had the revolution in Russia, they were wiping out all the royal family. So they met in Paris. She was a very wealthy, highly educated young woman, and they got married around 1943, just about the time the Germans arrived. So they had to flee Paris, and they ended up in New York. He was hiding out in St. Augustine because he was terrified that the Bolsheviks would murder him, as they were doing. But she was the society lady, very wealthy. She had a collection of artifacts from all over the world, and that was the Princess Place. Now, we're going to go by the Princess Place Road. I'm sorry, we just don't have time to go in there, but this is the place you really must visit. It is the place on a weekend. You can sit in a rocking chair on the front porch, look across the estuary. You'll see Marineland on the other side. Pat and I come here all the time because there's an eagle's nest out here, a very old eagle's nest, and we come out on Sundays to see the eagles, which should be arriving just about right now, and it's a very fascinating place. Okay, we've just gone by the Princess Place. I was yakking. We're going to turn into the Egg Museum, and I apologize for yakking too much. This is the Florida Agricultural Museum, Now, this was awarded after great political controversy to the county of Florida, to the county of Flagler.
Yes.
And basically, it shouldn't have existed because they gave us this wonderful place, but they gave us no money. And it's gone through, do you need the gate code here?
I know it.
Okay. This is perhaps one of the great revival stories of Flagler County. This is again run pretty much by volunteers with almost no money. Most of the horses you see are privately owned and are being boarded here. There are a couple of genuine Spanish horses here, which are related to the original Spanish horses brought in here by the conquistadors of Spain. And there are many interesting animals here. This is another paradise. The best thing to enjoy this is take a tour. This is another volunteer operation. We have dedicated docents here that are just absolutely dedicated. Everything is authentic. This is a late 1880s farm, which was orange grove done by the Strawn family. This is the Traxler commissary, which is loaded with 1918, 1920 merchandise. These buildings are totally authentic. I don't know if one of the docents will pop out here. Maybe Mrs. Holbeck, if you slow down and maybe toot your horn, she might come out. She knows we're coming. But this is one of the treasures of Flagler County. This is an immense place. It is humongous in size. Everything you can think of is here. The site of a colonial hydraulic sawmill is here. Most of the houses cut. We got the director coming. This is Mrs. Holbeck. Another one of the miracles of Flagler County.
Hi. Sorry, I was on the phone. Welcome. Right Hadley's. Fantastic group. Welcome to the Florida Agricultural Museum. Not sure how much Bill has told you, but you've got a fantastic tour guide right here. Hi, Ed. And a good co-passenger. We are started by state statute, so we're the official Florida Agricultural Museum. Our mission is to educate about agriculture, past, present, and future. And when I first heard that, I thought, wow, that's a really, really big job. But agriculture is very important to the state of Florida, and we have Florida produces over 300 different agricultural commodities on 9.5 million acres of farmland. So tourism is the #1 industry, of course, but directly behind that is agriculture. So that's our job to tell the story, and so the history of agriculture and where agriculture is going. We have 460 acres here. We have a lot of buildings that have been brought from somewhere else in the state of Florida. We have a lot of animals, which is one of my favorite parts. We have cracker. Have you told about the crackers yet?
I haven't gotten to crackers yet.
Okay, I'll let him tell the story about the crackers. But we have horses, cows, and sheep that are direct descendants of what the Spaniards brought 500 years ago. And they're really picky. The associations are very, very particular about keeping that breed pure, and through DNA testing and breeding. So we do have some here. We've got a calf. She was just out. I'll hop off in a minute and pull her out. It's kind of quiet here. We're open to the public basically on the weekends, on Thursday and Friday. So it's kind of quiet out here right now. And since it's a dismal day, there's not a lot of activity. But sometimes we're lucky enough to see some cracker horses going by. But the cracker breed kind of fell out of favor to ranchers because other breeds produce more meat, or sheep that produce more wool. But there's a big push now to reintroduce that and preserve that history. So that's basically the short version of the museum. Welcome, and I'm going to hop off and grab a horse, a cracker horse, so you can see her, and hopefully the calf. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
rumor has it that there's a farmer's market that takes place here.
Yes, there is a brand new farmers market, thank you, every Thursday morning. And our goal is to provide space for vendors to sell what they have. And we're doing farm products as well as flea market items, crafts, handmade things. And also we want to create a sense of community, because we're so close to different communities, but there's the perception that we're so far out in the middle of nowhere, but we really are this middle of this fantastic community. So that's what we want to provide, that service. So come out, it's free parking, free admission, and on the first Thursday of January we're having a large launching of it. It'll be more of a festival type atmosphere, kind of to show everybody what we have. And we bring animals out, and it's just a fun time. We have live music. So it's a family oriented day for everybody every Thursday morning. Thanks, Ed.
What is that
yes.
over there in the fence?
That is our wild boar. Somebody found him on the side of the road and brought him to us. He was about 2 weeks old, and
Little guy right there.
Yeah, and he thinks he runs the museum. He really is in charge.
Yes, he is. He is a piney woods rooter, and their main diet is acorns. So that's why the wild boars do dig so much. If they get in your yard, you'll know it. But he's our buddy, and he's going to be part of our petting zoo area. But he is my pal.
When the Spanish came here, remember that back in the 1500s, these cattle and these pigs got loose, and they loved Florida, and they bred, and pretty soon Florida was full of piggies and cows and Spanish cows, and these were wild animals. They were dangerous. The cattle, they'd kill you if they could. So the Spanish had special horses, which were direct descendants of the Andalusian horses, halfway between a pony and a cow horse, that could live in Florida. Now, where did crackers come from? Well, you couldn't use a lariat in Florida, so they had long leather whips, and they would crack the whip to drive the cattle. It's the only thing that worked in this brush, and so they started calling them crackers. And later, this is a picture done by Mr. Remington, but that's the epitome of a Florida cracker on a Florida horse, because there was a whole generation of people coming into Florida, and they called them crackers. It wasn't a derogatory term. In fact, I found a letter, this is amazing, written by George Washington, where he referred to people in the South as crackers, written by George Washington. And he didn't mean it in a negative way. These were people that lived in the South that used these long leather whips. And the first cattlemen were black. They were brought up from a part of Africa they were called Gula. And this was a part of Africa that was under British control. They spoke English, and they were expert cattlemen. So your very first cowboys were right here. The first ones that ever existed. These are hundreds of years before John Wayne. And they were right here, right where you're at right now.
And we do have a black cowboy exhibit here. It's in the process of moving somewhere else, but so it's not up right now. But it is a fantastic story. Yes,
I've been here many times, but not in the last couple of years. You moved some buildings up closer together.
we did. The new goal is to create this center circle, like a community of buildings. And those two buildings, one is a post office from Bunnell, and the next one right behind this gray building is an 1880 general store from north of Gainesville. It's fantastic. When you step in, you feel like you are in 1880.
Wow,
it's fantastic. So our goal is to finish this inner circle around and have a tram running around and hop on, hop off. So,
To enjoy this place, you have to hook up with one of the dedicated volunteers, because there's people that are volunteers here that are just beyond belief. And all you have to do is show up, make reservations, and they're delighted to take you on a tour.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm going to hop off and grab some animals so you can see a cracker horse. And you when you look at the horse, they're smaller boned and smaller in stature, so which is another reason why they fell out of favor to the ranchers. But they are sturdy. They adapted to this environment very well.
And smart.
They are very smart. Yes. They're hard to say.
Dumb they ain't.
Yes, yes. And the calf too. I'll bring out the calf. So thank you. Please
Thank
come
you.
back.
Yeah,
Enjoy
thanks.
this bus tour. And any other questions before I hop off? No? Thank you.
We'll go down to the dairy barn
Okay.
and turn around.
Perfect.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.